to the second in a series of careers webinars that we've got through Leicestershire Cares. This one's titled Career in Construction, and we're joined by 4 speakers today. And I'll introduce you to them in a moment. Just to let you know, you don't have access to your, we don't see you and you can't talk through your microphone, but if you want to ask questions after each volunteer and at the end, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should have a Q&A icon. If you press on that, then you can ask any questions you'd like. So I'd encourage you to ask some questions as well, because the speakers here have got a lot of information they can give to you. So I'll pass over to Zoe and Josh first, and they'll tell you who they are, who they work for, and give you a bit of information about what they do. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. I'm just going to share my screen with you. I've got a few slides. Hopefully you can see that. Please do stop me if it doesn't work.
That's great, Zoe.
Thanks.
I can see that.
Okay, so my name's Zoe. I work for a construction company called Willmott Dixon. Willmott Dixon are one of the largest family-owned construction companies in the UK. We've been going for around, well, it's about 160 years now. And we were started by John Willmott back in 1852. And John Willmott partnered with the Dixon family and started this business. And one of their first jobs was to build a well. And he was paid £1 to build that well. Doesn't sound like a lot of money in 1852. I think it was quite a lot of money. It's around £360 in today's money. But they'd built up a really good reputation in their local area, and they parted ways not long after. But John Willmott decided to keep the name Willmott Dixon. And here we are today. And we turn over about £1 billion, and we employ over 2,000 people across the country. We've got offices up and down the UK and Wales, and my colleague Josh, who's on the call as well, we work out of the Midlands office. So we've got one office in Nottingham and one in Birmingham that we work out of. And the company is now run by Rick Willmott, who is a 5th generation of the family. And Rick's son has recently joined us as a management trainee. So hopefully he'll be continuing the business and we'll still be here in 200 years. So what do we do? When people think about construction, they normally think trade. So they think about bricklayers and carpentry, plastering, those kinds of things. So we don't do that. We don't employ trades directly. We're a management company. So when a customer has an idea to build a new leisure centre, for example, they'll come to us and we'll help them through the process of how much will it cost, what will it look like, the design process with architects, where are we going to build it? So we look at the land and do surveys. Then we follow it through to on-site, to actually building it. And our team of project managers and quantity surveyors will manage that process. And that's when they work with our supply chain, which is the trades. So the bricklayers and plasterers and all the rest of it. We've got a really close relationship with them. So when we have work experience days or site visits, people can have the opportunity to do those through our supply chain partners on our sites, because we manage the whole site. So we see a project right through from conception, when it's just an idea, all the way through to handing it over to the customer. So here's some examples of some of the things we've built in the Leicestershire area. One of our great projects in the area is the Leicester City Hall, which is an amazing Art Deco building that we refurbished a few years ago. But we build anything from housing estates, leisure centres. We build a lot of schools, office buildings, all that. We get involved with any sector. And there are a lot of roles available in construction. It takes a lot of people to be able to build something like that. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. We're going to hear from Josh as well, who's one of our management trainees. And then we're going to watch a short video about our trainee programme. So I've worked in construction for about 15 years. I started my career in construction working in the offices as an administrator. When I left school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I did an apprenticeship sort of in administration because my GCSEs weren't that great. But I ended up in a construction company and I really loved it. I love the atmosphere, the fast pace way that construction is. Everything's different every single day. You're doing something practical as well. You're problem solving on site every day. So I went back to school and did a project management qualification called a Prince 2, and ended up being a project manager, running my own projects on site. And one of my biggest achievements was working on the London 2012 Olympics, which I worked on for 5 years. Traveling down to London and back and seeing it from just a piece of grass to what it is today, which was an amazing project. And then I moved on to Willmott Dixon, where I've been for 7 years now as a community manager. So this is a role that never used to exist years ago, but because construction has changed so much over the years, it now requires this role. And what I do is wherever we're building something, I make sure that we're giving something back to the local communities. And that's not just charities and giving money, but that's things like planting trees and making sure we leave the area in a better place than when we started there. So actually, I'm just going to play this quick video to tell you a bit more about the management trainee programme, and then we're going to hear from Josh, who is one of our trainees, to tell you about how he found it.
I didn't actually know what construction was like. I just thought it was builders and men on site.
I thought it was literally you'd be standing in a ditch in the rain, digging holes. I didn't realise that there's a whole office side to the business, and that's what grabbed my attention.
Every day's different really as a quantity surveyor, working with numbers and making sure that the project runs on time to budget.
We basically pull all of the information together for the site team to then be able to build the job on site.
A digital engineer interacts at all stages throughout the construction process.
Day to day as a planner, I concentrate on the time aspect of a project, the process and the sequence of the construction phase before we get to site.
As an estimator, we try and get the most accurate price.
We'll be out in the field building laptops for people, ensuring they have all the software that they need.
When I was quite a lot younger, I obviously used to play a lot of PlayStation and Xbox. I never thought it was actually going to help. So one of my roles is actually to use an Xbox controller on a daily basis. So yeah, it's come to real good use.
Part of my role is trying to reduce carbon emissions. So it's just about making small changes on site to make them more environmentally friendly.
The thing I love most about my job is the amount of different people that you come across.
Meeting new people.
I love the people I work with. I love how every day is different.
The variety.
I work on leisure centres, schools, big sports arenas.
Working on Wembley was particularly interesting. I enjoy football, so it was nice to sort of see the behind the scenes.
No 2 days are the same and you're always learning something new. I think like a lot of young people, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
My school wasn't big on giving careers advice.
Construction definitely wasn't something that we were told about. So I came to do 2 sets of work experience, one on site, which I enjoyed, and I also did some more work experience in the office and absolutely loved it.
People always assume, oh, what do you do in the office? Or as if you're female, they put this assumption on you. And then I turn around and say, oh no, actually I'm going to be a building manager, I'm going to work on site, and they're shocked. And I love that. And I think, why shouldn't women be building managers?
People don't know about the professional roles behind it and actually the money that is involved. Yeah, the money is good.
It's a decent starting salary and then it can go up as far as you're willing to push yourself really.
So you get an iPad or tablet for quality checks and all the things we do on site, which is a much easier way to do it.
You get your travel paid, you get a company car, you get your university paid.
I drive a Mercedes A-Class.
I drive an Audi.
I drive a Nissan Micra.
When I first started my career in the construction industry, I did get a lot of like, oh really, that's the career you chose?
It's been quite funny actually bringing my mates into this office and showing them where I work. They had some kind of misconceptions of what Willmott Dixon was and what they offered.
Now when I tell them like how diverse my job is and how much impact I get to have in the local communities that we work in, they're actually quite jealous of the role that I'm in.
Look beyond what you're told about in school and in college.
The advice I would give would be definitely to try and get site visits if you're interested in the construction industry, and also try and get work experience. You'll learn a lot on the job.
There's plenty of ways to get to where you want to be. So don't let your qualifications limit you, because Willmott Dixon will train you up.
I truly believe that there is a job for everybody in construction.
I hope you enjoyed that video, and now it's over to Josh to tell us a bit about your journey.
Hi all, so my name's Josh Deacon. I'm a management trainee at Willmott Dixon. Been in construction for probably about 5.5 years now, 2.5 of Willmott's, and then prior to that I was assistant surveyor for one of our supply chain. And my routine was probably a little bit different or similar to some. Again, for me growing up, it was just football really. Can't say I had an interest in education or thought anything beyond what I wanted to do. And then when the inevitable happened and football didn't work out, as my mum always said it would, I was probably left a little bit lost in the sense of didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I was always lucky in the sense that my mum always pushed education. So I always had the GCSEs to fall back on should, like I say, football not work out. So then one of my friends actually worked for a construction company and told me about a role that was available as a quantity surveyor. I'll be honest, I didn't have a clue what it was at the time. I told this story before, but I literally just Googled what the average salary was for a quantity surveyor, and it looked fairly good, so I thought, I'll give that a go. And it was probably the best decision I made, really. I love my job, which is, I don't think many people can really say that. My day-to-day responsibilities really include things like procurement. So for those that don't know what that is, essentially if you're building a house, you need to procure the products. So you need to get hold of the bricks, the windows. So we manage our supply chain to bring them in and install them for us. There's a lot of contractual work. So looking at the legalities of a construction project. So putting contracts in place to make sure everybody's covered. Essentially, my main role is to manage the budget, so make sure that we stay under budget. Cost reporting, so I have to report my cost figures to the people above, which sometimes is good, sometimes is bad. It depends what they're reporting. And then as a management trainee, you're quite lucky in the sense that you get to go around the company as a whole. So you try out every different role. So I've tried, I've had to go to BIM, estimating. I'm due to undertake one with Zoe's team in the community department. Quite lucky in the sense that if a particular role does take my interest, I can change to that discipline while I'm a management trainee. At the minute I've not been swayed, I still train to be a surveyor, so that's what I'll be going into. And I think I got a note here just about advice and going into construction and careers. I think for me, my experience, I'd probably just say make sure you've got the foundations with education. So if there's anything that you do want to do or you try something and you don't like it, you've always got that. You've always got the foundations of education to fall back on, and then just experiences really. I think construction is kind of the place to be for me. I think a lot of people would be surprised as to the opportunities available and how enjoyable it can be. I mean, I've gone from wanting to be a footballer to a quantity surveyor, so it's quite the change for me. So, and I'm happy enough to say that I love my job. So that's probably a good place to be, really.
Thank you, Josh. And that's us from Willmott Dixon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Zoe and Josh. That was really informative. The video as well was great, and it dismisses a lot of stereotypes there are about the building construction sort of career, that actually there are a lot of women that work in it as well, and just showed that there's a really wide range of jobs within the construction world. So thank you. We haven't any questions at the moment. Has anybody got any questions? Haven't seen any pop up. Well, what we'll do, we'll go on to Natalie, and then we might have some more questions at the end. But thank you so much, Zoe and Josh. That was very informative. Thank you. Over to you, Natalie.
Thanks, Helen. Hi, everyone. My name's Natalie Webster. I am a corporate social responsibility manager for another main contractor called Kier. So much like Willmott Dixon, we're a big main contractor. You're going to hear some things that are really quite similar, because there's quite a lot of companies that are in this space, and we all do broadly the same thing. And I think that's what's kind of so brilliant about the industry, is that you've got so many connections across all different locations and different companies, and so many opportunities. Most of these contractors will do things like pay for you to go to university, you'll get company cars. So yeah, broadly speaking, going to any one of our companies is yeah, much recommended. And I've got a kind of similarly kind of winding story about how I got into the industry, and I find that a lot of people have that similar story, where it's actually that this was never what they were intending to do, because, you know, schools don't often give you too much information about the construction industry. And I think it's a real testament to construction that so many people find it randomly and then love it and stick to it. So yeah, I think the fact that we're all here and we're all kind of talking about how much we love our jobs, it really is quite genuine, and I see that a lot. So yeah, Kier, we are a national company. We have many different sections. So we've got kind of highways, rail, we've got housing maintenance, we build houses. So there's lots of different of the sectors that you can kind of get involved in there. And they are very different in terms of how they recruit as well. So for example, highways do a lot of kind of apprenticeships that go straight from school, so that you could be kind of like an apprentice on one of the highways projects. I work within the construction section of Kier. We're the ones that do big projects like schools, hospitals, universities, accommodation, leisure centres, kind of like Zoe was saying. But yes, my job is very similar to Zoe's in that it's very much community focused, making sure that the places that we go into and build in are better when we leave them than when we arrived. So a lot of it is school and college, university engagements like this. So I get a really privileged to speak to a lot of young people about the industry, and hopefully educate them on, you know, what else is out there for them. And that's the part of my job that I definitely love the most. Kind of planning work experience. We've done a lot of virtual work experiences past year, so that's all been very new and very exciting. But yeah, I get to work on projects from when we first get, you know, the idea of that we might be able to win this project, because we would have to go up against other competitors in order to try and win a project. So I get involved at that stage. I get to kind of write and put together plans and ideas for how we can improve the community that we're working in. So, you know, whether that's doing local school engagements, whether that's creating new jobs, apprenticeships, providing work experience, doing environmental kind of activities, doing community benefit projects. We might be refurbishing something nearby for free. There's all sorts of different kind of schemes we can get involved in, and we look at the local area and we try and adapt it to what's going on there. So I work similarly across the Midlands. So we've got a Birmingham office and a Nottingham office as well. So I work across all of the East Midlands and the West Midlands currently. And yeah, our projects there tend to be schools, leisure centres. We're doing a crematorium at the moment. We've got a hospital project in Birmingham. We've recently finished Everard's Brewery in Leicester. So that was a really exciting project, because that was something that we've never done before. And yeah, it was just something so different. And the team there were really, really great. Everybody, I think, will say the same things about construction, that the people are great and that every day is different. And if you are all about that, then this is definitely a career that you could be interested in. And I will echo the sentiments that we heard in the video as well, that I really do believe that there is a job for everyone in construction, because you can, you know, if you're really technical, you can look at BIM. If you're, you know, into numbers and finance, you can look at quantity surveying and estimating. If you're more creative, there's the design side of things. You know, it really is something for everyone. And just from my background, I actually studied English literature at university, and then I went on to do a master's degree in literature and film, and I was always absolutely intent on being an academic, and I wanted to stay in university and become a lecturer. So this is just so worlds away from what I ever thought I'd be doing, and I'm really, really happy that my organisation really just took a chance on me. So I've been at Kier for 2 years now, and it was yeah, it was a bit of a leap of faith for my manager who employed me, because I'd never worked in construction before. I clearly didn't really know anything about it. I remember back to my interview trying to blag some things that I might have known about construction, and that'll have definitely seen right through me. But they obviously saw something that they thought, oh, this, you know, this could work. And I'd not even heard of the role before. So it was something completely new to me. And I have to say as well that this area of construction, social value and community engagement, is only growing. So if our jobs were something that you would be interested in, these roles are going to continue to crop up, and probably not just in the construction industry, but elsewhere as well. So yeah, lots and lots of roles. You know, as well as the kind of construction specific roles, there are roles that come with any big organisation: marketing, law, you know, finance, administration, HR. But it's just a really nice industry to be a part of, because, you know, it pays well, it's solid. You know, we've been working all the way through COVID, you know, that's been obviously one of the key kind of industries that's kept working. So that's really good in terms of stability. And yeah, I think that you get to see something really tangible, that's what we've worked on and that's what we've done. So in terms of my advice, and I'm sorry, I feel like I've gone on for ages, but my advice for you would just be to be open-minded. Don't just dismiss something because you think that's not for you. Really, you know, do site visits, do some work experience, just have a go. We're really open to doing that kind of stuff as an industry. We love having young people come and see what we're about. So please do reach out. That's something that I think is really important. I agree on the, you know, getting your base education. I mean, obviously I went to university, did something completely different. I don't regret that for a minute, because I absolutely loved my subject, and I feel like it shaped me to be the person that I am, who's the person that got my job and has continued to progress. So yeah, but also I think one thing that I always make sure that I kind of get in here is that before I went to university, I took 2 years out and I worked, and that for me was a huge help for my confidence and for understanding what I actually wanted to do, and for taking university really seriously when I got there. So I mean, it's totally about you and where you're at, and if you feel like that's something that would help you, I can't tell you how much it helped me. So yeah, please do take a look at all the different roles in construction. There's something for everyone. And I will stop talking now, but thank you very much for listening.
No, that's brilliant, Natalie. You didn't go on too long, and it was very informative. It's brilliant. And all three speakers up to now, it's interesting that it wasn't really in their plans to go into the construction industry. They just got into it somehow, but they all love their jobs. Everything's different every day, and they all say it pays well. So you've sold me. And we don't have any questions at the moment. Students are being shy this morning. So once again, we'll wait until the end and see if we have any. I encourage students to ask questions. I think it maybe is a good thing, because these three talks up to now have been really informative and they don't need to ask anything. So we'll look on the positive side of that. Maybe that's why. But please ask any questions if you think of any students, and we'll ask them at the end. But I will pass you now over to Alex to tell you about what he does and who he works for. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Helen. I'll just share my presentation. I'm going to buck the trend now on a couple of points because firstly, I'll say that I always wanted to get into construction, and I knew that I wanted to do that from a young age. So yeah, so my name's Alex. I'm a civil engineer, and which is a branch of construction basically. I work for a company called Galliford Try that was started in early 1900s, so it's over 100 years old, similar to a lot of the other companies that we've heard from this morning. Originally, half of it was based in Leicester, in Wolvie near Hinckley, and so we've still got a sort of reasonable local presence. I'm doing a few jobs around Leicester at the moment. So I'm a civil engineer, and civil engineer is a type of civil engineer, the type of construction. Sorry, but the easiest way to sort of describe what I'm doing. This is a photo from. Hold on, in fact, sorry, let me present that. That's a photo from last night. So I'm working nights at the moment. We're currently building a new junction on the A1, and this is we're lifting in bridge beams to build a new bridge. So right in front of you there, you've got a 500-ton crane, and you can see the bridge beam sort of laying out. There's plenty of snow all around as well, so it was quite a weird working experience. But building roads and bridges is one part of what civil engineers do. So civil engineers also work on building other things that help society sort of function. So roads, railways, airports, water, power, sewage, all that kind of stuff. And it goes hand in hand with construction and building, and other bits and pieces as well. There's another photo from last night there. So those beams weighed 15 tons each. They were manufactured in Ireland, shipped over, and then they're getting landed in to build our bridge deck. This photo, one from 5 years ago, we were demolishing a bridge over the M1. So that's an old bridge that was built in the 1960s. We were building a new junction on the M1 near Luton to form a new bypass of the town. And so we had the M1 shut for a whole weekend. And those are big, massive excavators with giant mechanical breakers and pincers on. And that's probably about 20 minutes into the demo, and they're starting to take down the bridge and demolish it and break it away. So that's just a couple of photos. I've got thousands of pictures, but a couple of photos that sort of show the highlights, the good bits and interesting bits from civil engineering in highways anyway. So in construction, like I say, there's various different elements. Galliford Try works all over the world, doing bits and pieces. But bridges, we did have a house building on, but we sold it off as well. But we're doing a fair few bits and pieces, doing the Broadmarsh car park in Nottingham at the moment. So do car parks, do highways jobs, schools, hospitals, student accommodation, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, civil engineering is everything to help society function. So like I say, transport, environment, like I say, we've got flood management, power stations, tunneling is a big one at the moment, especially in London, Crossrail, London Underground, High Speed 2, they're all forms of civil engineering, which is, like I say, is just one element of construction work. So, it's as other people have said, there's a lot of disciplines that get involved in construction and civil engineering, from architecture to structural design, and then logistics management, health and safety, environment, community engagement, all that kind of stuff. So there's plenty of different roles that you can get into in construction and civil engineering, and find one that works for you. Quantity surveying as well, materials management, other bits and pieces. So we said earlier, they civil engineers help sort of society function, so providing water supply, Thames barrier there, that photo is protecting City of London from flooding. Bridges, this one's in Taiwan, but there's any bridge that you go across has been built by civil engineers, structural engineers, and so on. Dams, again, for one for water and two for energy. Also helping preserve the past as well, so rehabilitating old buildings, and then obviously we've got the cutting edge new technology such as skyscrapers. You've got the Burj Al Arab in Dubai, tallest building in the world, all that kind of stuff, all being built by civil engineers. as other people have said, you know, we need more people in the industry to come in and work. So and we've got, you know, so many different challenges as a society that civil engineers are going to help solve, such as population growth. How are we going to fit all these people onto the planet in safe, sustainable housing, you know, and make it nice places for people to live? Aging infrastructure, you know, we've got bridges that are getting very old and are failing, and that's a shot from London Underground there, which is, you know, over 150 years old in some parts. It was never designed to last that long, so how do we keep that running? What resources are we using? We can't keep using fossil fuels, you know, so wind turbines, nuclear power stations, wave energy, tidal energy, solar panels, all that kind of stuff. You know, it's challenges that we face, and it's going to be sort of the next generation that's going to come up with the ideas to see how we're going to solve these sort of problems. Climate change and natural disasters. So the climate this week has been pretty interesting for everyone. I think of a week of snow in the Midlands. I've never had anything like it, to be fair. So again, how are we going to prevent all the low-lying land from flooding? How are we going to stop farmland turning to desert as the planet warms up? All that kind of stuff. So there's quite a lot of interesting challenges, and you know, you will be contributing to society. You're not going to be ripping off your fellow neighbours. It is a job that helps benefit people. You know, if you're building a school, building a hospital, it's going to help people and help society function better. So you get a reasonable sort of job satisfaction out of it as well. So just a couple of lists there. Obviously, travel at the moment, we can't really do too much in COVID times, but before COVID, you know, there's opportunities to work all over the world. Because civil engineering is needed everywhere. And, you know, just in my role, I've travelled all over the country. I've worked from Scotland down to Devon, Wales, London. You know, there's plenty of opportunity to move around, see different places, and yeah, good money, other people have said as well. They're just a list of some job roles. I've mentioned a lot of them already: structural engineers, environment engineers, water resource, energy, construction management, project management, cost consultants, technical specialists. There's so many different roles you wouldn't even know to think that they exist, but that there's always going to be something for someone. A lot of people think that construction and civil engineering as well, you need to be good at maths, but believe me, you don't. I failed my A-level maths, and I'm better at English, and I was considering English at university at one point, but you don't need to be good at maths. What you need to be good at is just understanding details. You know, you can get a computer to do the maths for you now, or get a structural engineer to do it for you. So don't think that it's all maths based. You know, there's plenty of roles where you can get away without that, and I'm working as an engineer without too much trouble. So my route into engineering, I took the sort of fairly traditional route. I did my A-levels, and then I went through university because I felt that was the best route for me. But there are plenty of other ways to get in. Apprenticeships are pretty big at the moment. I've got 2 apprentices in my team on my site at the moment who are helping me last night with the bridge beam lifts and so on. And again, with the apprenticeships, you get paid to learn. The lads on site, they do 4 weeks in the office and then a week with Stevenson College, which is done remotely at the moment, and then they'll get MVQs and ultimately a degree at the end of it after several years, which the company will pay for. So it's not that there's quite a lot of ways to get into it. It's not. Don't think it's the university is the only way, and you don't even have to do an apprenticeship. You can start off as work experience or work your way up. So I say university, I did civil engineering degree, but you can do different roles. There's construction management degrees, environmental engineering, structural engineering, geotechnics, which is all to do with study of the ground, and ground engineering. So there's plenty of different routes into it, depending on which way you want to do. I'm just going to stop sharing the rest of the presentation now, because that's not necessary for these bits and pieces. So yeah, I think that's me time-wise as well.
That's absolutely brilliant, Alex. Thank you. And yet again, I've learned more as well from you. I've learned something from all 4 of the speakers today. We haven't any questions at the minute. I was going to ask the maths question and the apprenticeship question. You've answered both of those, Alex. So that's great. I'll just wait for some questions to come through if we've got any. But if I was just about to finish my GCSEs, obviously GCSEs are A-levels. Students aren't taking this year, they're going on their estimated grades. But if I was a student that has just finished that year, either GCSE or A-level, and just wanted a job within your industries rather than an apprenticeship, where would I look? What, anyone on the panel can answer that? Maybe Zoe.
Yeah, I would. It's really difficult because of for health and safety reasons, you would have to be over 18 to work on a construction site. But there might be some opportunities in the office. But you know, getting a job straight from after your GCSEs, I know is really difficult at the moment for young people because of laws and legislations, never mind COVID. But what I would say is sign up to college or sixth form, go and do your A-levels and then figure it out. You know, nothing is forever. And I think a lot of young people get frightened and they think, oh, but if I sign up for this, that's me for the rest of my life. It isn't. I really encouraged my son to do construction at A-level, to do the built environment course. He did it for 6 months and he was like, I hate it. I don't want to work in construction. So then we had to look around, and what he had got was a bit more experience, a bit more knowledge about what he doesn't want to do. And I think that's just as important as realizing what you do want to do. You know, I reiterated to my son, if you want to change your mind, change your mind. People change their jobs and you know, what they do all of the time. It's not the end of the world. Go to college. If you don't like it, change your course or search for an apprenticeship. I think what isn't acceptable is don't just sit there and do nothing, because no one's going to knock on your door and say, would you like this fantastic job? You've got to go out there and push yourself out your comfort zone sometimes. I encourage my son as well. He worked in a pub. I know, again, at the moment you can't do that, but a little job at the weekends and evenings. He was collecting glasses and, you know, he worked in a kitchen, but it's giving you communication skills. It's making you turn up on time. It's giving you amazing skills that you will take forward to a career that you'll go into eventually. So I just think don't be too worried to try things. And if it doesn't work out, get back on the horse and try something else, and that's perfectly acceptable.
I think that's brilliant answer and really good information to give to students.
I'd just like to add to that, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Just, I think when I was 17 and just leaving school, I went and worked at a shop, and that was invaluable for me and my confidence and skills in all sorts of different ways. And then just because you've had some paid employment, you've been there, you've turned up, just like Zoe was saying, that meant that when I went to university, I then got part-time work at university as well. I've worked ever since I left school, which meant that by the time I graduated, I wasn't in the position that a lot of people are, where they've never worked and they've just studied and it's really difficult for them to get a job because people are a bit worried that this is going to be their first ever job, you know, and that's a real big risk for an employer. If you can get work experience, if you can get part-time work, again, I appreciate that it's really difficult, but again, in terms of virtual work experience, there's lots of things out there. Putting something like this on your CV, just saying, I took the time out of my day to come and sit and listen to about careers because I'm really invested in my future. You know, keep a log of all these things because they're what's going to make you stand out, rather than being someone that just thinks there's nothing out there, so I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Natalie, and don't underestimate volunteering roles as well. Like, one thing that with COVID, there are loads of volunteering roles out there. So even if it's that you offer to do your neighbour's shopping every week on a Friday, you can put that on your CV because it's showing that you're reliable, you're mature, you know, anything like that would be it's work experience, whether it's paid or unpaid, you're still doing a job, really. So yeah, just I really, really want to stress the point that you've got to go out there and find these things, or ask, you know, a careers advisor or someone and say, can you help me? Because I really want to do this. Because there are loads of people out there that want to help you if you want to help yourself, definitely.
Yeah, you really don't always realise what experience you've built up or skills that you've built up that will actually transfer into a different job. So yeah, brilliant. We have got a question actually. This might be a good one for Alex, or anyone else can answer as well. Can you explain more about the environmental aspect of construction and engineering? For example, more different types of jobs in that area, etc. I think there was a list there, but do you want to say something about that, Alex?
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure whether it's environmental roles or the environmental industry. So I'll cover both sides. So in the environmental industry side of it, calling it environment is just like a sector term for a part of construction and civil engineering. So things like building flood defences could be classed as an environmental scheme. Again, building wind farms, wind turbines. There's a scheme in Gloucestershire at the moment where they're building fish passes on weirs and locks on the River Severn to help salmon migrate back to their, I think it's salmon, or it might be some other type of fish, to migrate back to their natural breeding grounds, which again you can class as an environmental scheme. Flooding is obviously the big one. There's we're in Ireland and we've got a lot of water and get a lot of rain, so there's always flood schemes going on, and they make up the big amount of the environmental sector, really. But there's a lot of the flooding schemes are quite interesting. So the Environment Agency, they'll build flood defences. They did loads along the Norfolk coast a few years ago that I was reading about. Galliford Try did Derby and Burton-on-Trent flood defences, and they're quite interesting because there's a load of new techniques for sort of flood management coming out. So, traditionally you might build a really high wall. You might build an earth bund to keep the water away. Now there's new bits being tried where we're actually building lagoons and building lakes and artificial lakes to let water water to have space to flood into. Basically, there was a scheme on the south coast where they actually broke some of the flood defences that were built in the 60s to let water have somewhere to go. And some of these schemes are like 20-30 kilometers long. So they're using new technology. They're using drones to fly above and visualize the schemes and track how much material has been placed and where it's been moved. 3D mapping and imagery. It's all really quite interesting. And yeah, so, and then like I say, you've got smaller schemes. Some of them are a lot smaller, where we're building dams out of sort of wood and hedgerows to create sort of a natural dam, so that when a river is in flood, it slows the flow of water downstream, so more of it is getting held upstream and it stops flooding towns and stuff out. So I think Leeds is a big flood defence scheme that BAM Nuttall are doing at the moment in Leeds as well. So there's most of it is flooding in the environment. Like I say, there's other bits and pieces as well, and it's no one pigeonholes a particular scheme into the sector, but generally so for the environment side. And then in terms of roles, you've got the people that will work on those schemes. So you might have a flood defense technical design engineer, and people with that technical aspect of actually designing how the scheme will work. And then you've got sort of the biodiversity element of it as well. So you'll have sustainability managers, you'll have ecologists. Some people you might have an ecologist that just specializes in doing bat surveys, for example. And none of these roles you'll be able to jump into straight away from school. They're not going to say, right, you're an expert on bats, go and tell us whether we can knock down this tree or not. But there's a whole host of different roles in there to work your way into. So yeah, sustainability managers, and again, I imagine that what was I going to say? So yeah, sustainability managers, and there'll be people that we're working a lot in the construction industry on reducing our CO2 footprint as well. So you'll have people sort of working on that, which again will come through procurement, the material buyers, that kind of stuff, and then the people that will be in roles just to report on how much CO2 a project is using, how it can be reduced. I think we've got a role in our project called a CO2 champion, whose job is just to that sort of monitor that and reduce that. So yeah, there's a fair bit in the environment, and with climate change and other bits and pieces, and like I say, because of how we live on an island and the way where we are, it's always going to be something that we're going to need.
I'll just add to that, Alex, if that's all right. I think we're exactly the same as you. We have sustainability managers and biodiversity managers and all the rest of it. But I think if somebody has a rough idea of the industry they want to go into or the role they want to go into, do a bit of research and kind of work backwards and look at, you know, what did a sustainability manager do at university, then what A-levels did they do, and what GCSEs did they get. So I think it's quite useful to look at a role and work backwards on how they got there from a traditional point of view. But all of those roles, again, probably offer, because we have apprentice or management trainees who do environmental sustainability, all those kinds of roles. So there probably are apprenticeships or graduate schemes that you can go into as well.
Thank you, that's great. We don't have any more questions. But we've had a great conversation today, and 4 really informative talks. This has been recorded, so it will be sent to schools. What I'll say to students is, if you have any more questions for any of the panelists, you can email me and I can pass them on. Is that okay? If there's any more questions afterwards, if anyone hasn't asked today. But yeah, thank you for zooming in, everybody. And I want to say thank you to the panelists, Zoe, Josh, Alex and Natalie, for coming today. I've learned a lot and I've really enjoyed this webinar today. And for students, the next one is after half term, and it's a career in law. I think that's about the 25th of February. So hope you all have a nice day. Take care, and hope to see you all again soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.